Some of the world's most famous foods were not born in Europe, nor in Asia. They were born in the United States. Many of them appeared by accident, out of necessity, or simply because someone was trying to solve a problem in the kitchen, without realizing they were creating something that would eventually travel across the entire planet. Number 7 was born in the middle of the American plains, inside a hotel where a late-night poker game unexpectedly gave rise to a sandwich that would become a global classic. And number 2 was born in the kitchens of the American South, where a family recipe ended up becoming one of the most recognizable flavors in the world. These are 13 of the world's most famous foods that, although they now feel universal, actually began their story in the United States. Let's start with number 13, the donut. The donut was born like one of those stories that begin unintentionally, a sweet accident that ends up becoming a tradition. The scene dates back to the mid-19th century, in some cold port in New England, where sailors sought warmth in the form of fried bread. Among them was Hanson Gregory, a young captain who, according to legend, grew tired of the fritters they prepared on board remaining raw in the center. So, with the same nonchalance as someone scratching their head, he took the lid of a can and pierced the center. And there, without fanfare, the donut with a hole was born. The texture of a donut is like a cloud that decided to get mischievous, soft, fluffy, with that golden skin that barely crackles when you bite into it. It's a warm hug disguised as a ring. And although today it's displayed in shiny glass cases, with glazes that look like jewels, its origin is much more humble. A ship, a bone-chilling cold, and a sailor who just wanted his breakfast to be cooked properly. New England saw its birth, but the whole of the United States embraced it. Coffee shops made it the inseparable companion of coffee, police officers a cinematic cliché, and children a Saturday morning treat. Each donut tells a different story. The classic glazed one that shines as if bathed in light. The chocolate one that melts like a secret. The filling that bursts like a sweet surprise. And although thousands of versions exist today, from the most artisanal to the most extravagant, they all carry within them that simple gesture of Hanson Gregory. A hole that solved a problem and created an icon. An invention that, unintentionally, became part of the American landscape, like neon highway lights or Sunday breakfasts. Before continuing, subscribe and like so more people can rediscover the different most famous foods in the world were invented in the United States. 12. The hot dog. The hot dog is like that old friend who shows up at every party, every stadium, and every summer afternoon when the air is filled with the scent of freshly cut grass and burning coals. Its history, which is now a pillar of popular culture, began to take shape in Coney Island, New York, at the end of the 19th century. Back then, a German immigrant named Charles Feltman had a practical revelation. He decided to sell sausages inside a bun, so passers-by could enjoy them without burning their fingers. It was a simple, almost obvious idea, but sometimes the obvious needs someone with vision to bring it to life at the right moment. Coney Island, in those years, was a perpetual carnival of lights, laughter, shouts, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. Amidst this joyful and vibrant chaos, the hot dog found its ideal home. The experience of eating it is an exercise in comfort. The texture of the soft bun embracing the warm sausage feels like a warm, direct, and uncomplicated handshake. The steam that escapes with the first bite is almost a sigh of satisfaction. And then there are the condiments, which act as the dish's true personality: the bold mustard, the sweet ketchup, the onion that crunches like an unexpected comment, and the relish that shines like a knowing wink. Although Feltman was the pioneer who planted the seed, it was Nathan Handwerker, one of his employees, who elevated this food to a mass phenomenon. With a small stand and a lower price strategy, Nathan transformed the hot dog into the authentic people's food. Since then, this snack has become deeply ingrained in the American DNA, inseparable from baseball games, family barbecues, and fairs where the air vibrates with music. The hot dog doesn't pretend to be fancy. It's a straightforward street food, a reliable treat that transports anyone who tries it to an endless summer where everything seems simpler. Whether in its classic version as a chili dog or Chicago style, they all share the essence of an invention born of necessity, embraced by the masses, and transformed into a global symbol. 11. The hamburger. The hamburger is, without a doubt, the true rock star of American cuisine. No matter where you are on the map, whether it's a dusty highway disappearing into the horizon, a classic diner decorated with vibrant neon lights, or a backyard steeped in the nostalgic aroma of charcoal, there will always be a hamburger waiting to be enjoyed. Although its definitive origin is the subject of a seemingly endless debate, one of the most widely accepted and beloved stories takes us to New Haven, Connecticut. There, in 1900, Louis Lasson, the ingenious owner of a small lunch wagon, gave birth to the first modern hamburger. Legend has it that it all began with an everyday need. A customer in a hurry needed something quick to grab, something he could eat on the go without the hassle of using cutlery. Louis, with the practicality that defines spontaneous inventors, took ground beef, cooked it to perfection, and simply placed it between two slices of bread. In that precise moment, without ceremony or fanfare, a culinary legend was born. The consistency of a well-made hamburger serves as a perfect metaphor for sensory contrasts. The bun feels soft like a tranquil sunset, while the juicy meat explodes on the palate with the force of thunder. The cheese, melting gently over the protein, feels like a slow, comforting embrace. Each added layer tells its own story. The lettuce provides a crunch, like a fresh laugh. The tomato offers the moisture of a summer memory, and the sauces blend harmoniously, like the emotions of a difficult day. That little invention from New Haven exceeded all expectations, crossing states and oceans to infiltrate every culture on the planet. It transformed into fast food, a gourmet dish, a comfort food, and a street food delight, becoming an inseparable part of American identity, on par with endless highways or great Hollywood movies. Louis Lasson wasn't seeking international fame. His only ambition was to solve a practical problem of daily life. However, he proved that the best ideas often arise from urgency and the hunger of the moment. Today, every bite is a journey through a piece of history that forever changed the way an entire country eats. 10. The Chicago-style pizza. Chicago is a city of broad shoulders and biting winds, an epicenter of colossal architecture and an indomitable industrial spirit. Its gastronomy couldn't be any other way. Pizza perfectly reflects that strength and determination. In 1943, within the walls of the legendary Pizzeria Uno, Ike Sewell decided that pizza shouldn't be a light snack or a street treat, but a complete and sovereign meal that demanded the use of a knife and fork. The establishment, with its robust atmosphere and history etched into the brickwork, was the laboratory where the legend of the deep dish was forged. Imagine a cast-iron skillet, blackened by decades of baking and heavy as an anchor, acting as the mold for a cathedral of dough. This isn't just a flat plate, it's a vessel of cheesy dreams, a feat of culinary engineering that defies gravity. The architecture of this pizza is the reverse of the traditional. To prevent the ingredients from burning during the long cooking time, the order is subverted. First comes the cheese, then the additional toppings, and finally, the crown of sauce. The sight is breathtaking. A pool of thick, vibrant, blood-red tomato sauce covering massive layers of mozzarella cheese that stretch like endless silken threads. The base is essentially a giant shortbread cookie, A cornflour-enriched crust as firm as a stone wall, yet melting in your mouth with the delicate sweetness of a savory shortbread. When you cut into it, the spectacle is almost geological. The cheese flows like a river of white lava beneath the crimson surface of the tomato. The texture is a sensory roller coaster. The diner journeys from the crisp, toasted resistance of the edges to the creamy, warm swamp of the melted cheese in the center. It's a physical experience, a comforting weight in the stomach that reminds you that in the Windy City, everything is done big or not at all. It is ultimately the triumph of purposeful excess. 9. Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is like a warm, warm blanket that hugs your soul. Its history stretches back to the early days of America, but its modern version was born thanks to a man who never imagined his name would be forever linked to a dish: Thomas Jefferson. After a trip to Europe, Jefferson returned fascinated by Italian pasta and French cheeses, so much so that he ordered pasta molds and began experimenting in his kitchen at Monticello, Virginia. There, amidst books, inventions, and notes, the first American version of mac and cheese was created. But the dish didn't truly become popular until 1937, when Kraft launched its famous Blue Box. It was the Great Depression, and people needed cheap, fast, and comforting food. That little box promised all of that: pasta, powdered cheese, and the illusion of a simple, home-cooked meal. And so, mac and cheese went from being Jefferson's experiment to becoming a national symbol. The texture of mac and cheese is pure, creamy poetry. The smooth pasta glides on like swimming in a golden lake, while the cheese stretches like a sunset that refuses to end. Each spoonful is a jolt of nostalgia, a childhood memory, a warm embrace on cold days. It's a dish that doesn't pretend to be sophisticated. Its magic lies in its simplicity, in that blend of smoothness and warmth that feels like coming home after a long day. Today, gourmet versions exist, with artisanal cheeses and extravagant toppings. But the heart of mac and cheese remains the same: a dish born of curiosity, adopted out of necessity, and loved by generations. It's the kind of food that brings people together, appearing at family dinners, barbecues, and Thanksgiving tables, as if it were just another guest. 8. The buffalo wing. Buffalo wings were born in a place that could never have imagined becoming legendary: the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York. It was 1964, an ordinary night destined to be forgotten, when Teresa Bellissimo unexpectedly welcomed her son and a group of hungry friends who arrived unannounced. In the kitchen, lacking the usual supplies, she found only chicken wings, a cut that at the time no one considered special or worthy of being the star of a dish. However, Teresa, driven by that instinct mothers have to solve the impossible with whatever resources are available, decided to fry them and coat them with an improvised mixture of butter and hot sauce. What emerged from that pot was a true crispy miracle that would change bar cuisine forever. The texture of this bite is a sensory explosion divided into two perfectly defined acts. First comes the resounding crackle of the golden skin, and then the succulent meat that flakes away smoothly, as if it had been waiting for that precise moment to be revealed. The sauce that envelops them is liquid fire, a fiery embrace that settles on the lips like a bold and lingering memory. Its spicy aroma fills the air with such intensity that it seems to announce that something epic is about to happen at the table. Thanks to this creation, the Anchor Bar was transformed into a sanctuary of flavor, a place of pilgrimage where people formed endless lines just to taste those wings that seemed to have a life of their own. From humble beginnings, they became an essential part of the American DNA. Today, they're the lifeblood of sports bars, parties, and gatherings where people shout in front of the TV while wiping their fingers with napkins that never seem to be enough. Teresa wasn't seeking fame. She just wanted to feed her loved ones. However, her improvisation created an icon that is now served in thousands of versions: mild, spicy, extremely spicy, smoky, or citrusy. Each wing is a story of ingenuity, a delicious little fire that's usually extinguished with a sip of cold beer or the coolness of a bite of celery with blue cheese. 7. The Reuben Sandwich. In the middle of Nebraska's endless plains, under seemingly endless skies, a culinary gem emerged that defies the simplicity of the countryside. At the Blackstone Hotel in Omaha, during the Roaring '20s, a sandwich was born that is pure alchemy of flavors and a pillar of American comfort. Legend has it that Reuben Kulikowski, a local grocer who participated in the hotel's legendary poker games, needed something substantial to sustain him through the long nights of cards and bets. The hotel, a bastion of luxury with high ceilings and white-gloved waiters, became the stage where ingredients that, in theory, seem irreconcilable enemies, but on the plate act as perfect lovers, were combined. The architecture of this sandwich is a lesson in balance. It consists of thinly sliced corned beef, fermented sauerkraut, a generous slice of Swiss cheese, and the essential Russian dressing, all pressed between two slices of rye bread. This combination is then grilled until the bread reaches a golden brown color, similar to that of an ancient statue, and a crisp, authoritative crunch. The Reuben is an organized chaos of chromatic layers. The deep, salty pink of the meat contrasts dramatically with the pale white of the sauerkraut, which glistens in the light thanks to the moisture from the vinegar. The tactile experience is a sensory train wreck. The rye bread offers an earthy resistance, while the interior is a glorious sludge of melted cheese and creamy sauce that lubricates every fiber of the meat. Sauerkraut isn't just a filling, it delivers an electric crunch and a vibrant acidity that cuts through the fat and cleanses the palate like lightning on a stormy prairie night. It's a sandwich that feels alive, a mass of textures that transition from fibrous to melt in your mouth, unified by the dry heat of a griddle, in a luxury hotel in the middle of nowhere. 6. The s'more. The s'more is not just a dessert. It's a sweet little spell that unfolds its true magic under the vastness of the open sky. Its story is a journey to the heart of 1920s American tradition, born among the dancing shadows of campfires at Boy Scout and Girl Scout camps. In that environment of exploration and camaraderie, someone decided to fuse three excellent elements: graham crackers, milk chocolate, and toasted marshmallows. Although the genius behind this combination remains a mystery, the first official record appears in a 1927 guidebook. There, it was christened "some more," an expression that betrayed the sweet gluttony of those who always demanded a little more. The architecture of this treat is a lesson in elemental balance. The marshmallow, after being kissed by the embers, transforms into a molten and ethereal core. When pressed, the chocolate begins to yield to the residual heat, melting like a secret, while the graham crackers provide structural support with a dry crunch, similar to the sound of leaves underfoot in a night forest. It's a physical experience that transcends the culinary. It's impossible to bite into it without getting your fingers messy, without laughing at the sugary mess, or without feeling like you're recapturing the innocence of childhood for a fleeting moment. This invention wasn't born in an elegant kitchen, but in the freedom of the outdoors, amidst songs and the pungent aroma of burning wood. That's why the s'more feels so authentic. It's the triumph of simplicity over sophistication. Although gourmet versions with artisanal chocolates exist today, the true s'more still belongs to the campfire. It's a reminder that the best things in life, like this sandwich of sugar and fire, don't need to be complicated at all to be unforgettable. And if you're enjoying discovering the world's most famous foods invented in the United States, subscribe and like so you don't miss what's coming next. 5. General TSO's chicken. Although its name evokes legends of ancient China and the figure of a respected military leader of the Qing dynasty, General Tio's chicken is a culinary icon, as quintessentially New York as the Empire State Building or the yellow taxis that crisscross Manhattan. The true story of this dish wasn't written on the battlefields of Hunan Province, but rather in the vibrant and chaotic 1970s, in a New York City that functioned as a melting pot of neon lights and steam rising from the sewers. It was Chef Peng Changquei who, at his New York City restaurant, transformed a traditional recipe to suit the American palate, which has a deep-rooted devotion to fried textures and sweet and sour flavor profiles. Peng took select pieces of chicken, coated them in a dense batter, and submerged them in boiling oil until they became edible amber nuggets, shiny and visually striking for their intense crimson color. When the dish arrives at the table, it shines with the intensity of a pile of rubies stacked under a Chinese restaurant lamp. Its architecture is what has truly made it a global phenomenon. The outer layer is a crystal of sugar, soy, and chili, so rigid that it crackles with a resounding pop at the first bite. This shell protects a heart of chicken that remains as succulent as pure silk, creating an unforgettable thermal and tactile contrast. The sauce, a sticky, dense glaze, clings to the fingers and palate like a sweet resin with a hint of ginger and garlic. In essence, this chicken is a perfect metaphor for the city that gave it birth. Tough on the outside, vibrant and chaotic, but surprisingly tender once you manage to break through the initial barrier. General Tso's is the culinary warrior that conquered shopping malls and palates across the country, representing an explosion of flavor that defines the identity of Chinese American food. 4. The nachos. Technically, the origin of this dish lies right on the border of Piedras Negras, but it was in the state of Texas where it was adopted, transformed, and perfected, becoming the undisputed heart of any bar or social gathering on the continent. The story takes us back to 1943, when Ignacio Nacho Anaya had to masterfully improvise to feed a group of American soldiers' wives who arrived at the restaurant after the kitchen had closed. The setting was a simple, quiet dining room, the dry heat of the Coahuila Desert filtering silently through the windows. Lacking a full menu, Nacho took fried corn tortillas, generously topped them with shredded cheddar cheese and jalapeno slices, and placed them in the oven. What emerged from the flames was a mountain of molten gold and spicy emeralds that would forever change border cuisine and Sunday afternoons. Visually, a well-served plate of nachos presents itself as a rugged landscape of yellow peaks and deep valleys composed of refried beans, seasoned meat, and sour cream. The texture is, in essence, a culinary guerrilla war. The corn tortilla triangle acts as a rigid and resilient shield designed to support the weight of the melted cheese, which feels on the palate like a heavy, warm, and velvety blanket. With each bite, you experience a dry, rhythmic, and satisfying crunch, immediately followed by the rich creaminess of the dairy and the moist, tangy, and fibrous punch of the pickled jalapenos. It's a profoundly tactile experience. Eating nachos is like navigating a sea of shifting textures where no two bites are alike. This dish represents the triumph of disorder made delicious, a monument to borderland improvisation that, starting from scarcity, managed to conquer every stadium, movie theater, and home in the nation. 3. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is like a thick caress that clings to the palate, forcing the tongue to dance in a constant attempt to escape. This creamy delight is much more than a simple accompaniment. It's a sensory experience rooted in medical ingenuity and nutritional necessity. Its formal history begins in St. Louis, Missouri, in the late 19th century, under the tutelage of Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Kellogg, known worldwide for his cereals, was desperately seeking a protein-rich alternative for patients who, due to various health conditions, were unable to chew meat. In his quest to design easier to digest and highly nutritious foods, he patiently ground peanuts with almost scientific precision until they became a smooth, creamy, silky textured paste. What this doctor never imagined was that his invention, born in a clinical setting, would end up conquering school lunchboxes, quick breakfasts, and impromptu snacks in millions of homes across the country. St. Louis, at the time a vibrant city and epicenter of fairs and technological expositions, was the ideal stage for its debut. It was precisely at the 1894 World's Fair where peanut butter made its first and triumphant public appearance. Attendees tasted it with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity, like someone discovering a hidden treasure among the inventions of the time. Although initially labeled as a food for convalescents, its unmistakable flavor and practicality quickly transformed it into an everyday treat. The consistency of this food is pure tactile poetry. It feels thick, like golden clay, and soft, like an afternoon that passes without haste. Its toasted flavor lingers in the mouth like a warm memory, adapting to any situation. It melts elegantly on freshly baked bread, blends with jam, like two voices singing in perfect harmony, or playfully hides in cookies, milkshakes, and desserts. Finally, with the arrival of mass-market brands like Skippy and Jif, peanut butter became industrialized, transforming into an enduring symbol of childhood and the simplicity of the American home. 2. The American fried chicken. American fried chicken is much more than a fast food dish. It's like a crunchy thunderclap, heralding a true storm of flavor on the palate. Although this dish has deep roots in various cultures around the world, the version that became globally iconic was born in the southern United States, a region where kitchens have always been considered sacred temples of seasoning and tradition. In states like Kentucky, Georgia, and Tennessee, recipes weren't written down in books, but rather passed down from generation to generation as a living legacy. Each family possessed its secret blend of spices, and each grandmother jealously guarded her foolproof technique for achieving that perfect crunch that defines the dish. However, if there's one name etched in gold in the history of this delicacy, it's that of Colonel Harlan Sanders. During the 1930s, in a modest roadside diner in Corbin, Kentucky, Sanders began perfecting what would become a legend, a formula of 11 herbs and spices. His fried chicken reached such a level of excellence that travelers of the time made detours for miles just to taste it. Although his empire grew to unexpected corners of the planet, the heart of the story still belongs to that original little spot, where the aroma of freshly fried chicken mingled poetically with the exhaust fumes of passing cars. The texture of fried chicken is a true symphony of layers. The skin crunches with the same intensity as dry leaves underfoot in autumn, while the meat inside remains juicy, tender, and almost twitchy. Each bite offers a masterful contrast between crispy and soft, between intensely spiced and profoundly comforting. It is by nature a dish that is not eaten in silence. Its tasting is always surrounded by laughter, lively conversations, napkins that are never enough for the grease, and that unmistakable crunching sound that marks the rhythm of the meal. Over time, this food ceased to be exclusive to the South and captured the spirit of the entire country. Today, it's present at picnics, family gatherings, elegant restaurants, and street stalls, serving as an element that unites, celebrates, and evokes memories. Although thousands of modern versions exist, they all retain the essence of the South, a warm, vibrant character deeply steeped in history. 1. The brownie. The brownie is much more than a simple chocolate cake. It is, in essence, a slice of the night transformed into dessert. Its story began in the kitchens of Chicago in 1893 during the iconic World's Columbian Exposition. Bertha Palmer, a woman of great influence and vision, owner of the legendary Palmer House Hotel, posed a challenge to her pastry chefs. She needed a special treat for the ladies attending the event. Her request was precise, as she sought something small, elegant, and above all practical, something that could be transported in a lunchbox and enjoyed delicately without cutlery and without soiling the fine gloves of the time. The hotel chefs, accepting the challenge, experimented with a rich mixture of chocolate, butter, sugar, and flour. The result was a dark, dense square with a surface that shimmered in the light like polished coal. Thus, between luxury and the need for practicality, the original brownie was born. Since then, the texture of this dessert has become a true sensory journey. Biting into a brownie is to experience a perfect duality: the crisp resistance of its edges, reminiscent of a stubborn cookie, immediately followed by the moist softness of a center that melts like a secret slowly revealed on the palate. Each bite feels like a warm embrace, a sweet whisper that settles on the tongue while the aroma of cocoa fills the air, heralding a moment of celebration. Chicago, with its hybrid character of cosmopolitan elegance and industrial strength, was the ideal setting for this invention. Although it originated in the upper echelons of a luxurious hotel, the brownie quickly escaped those gilded walls to infiltrate everyday life. It rapidly transformed into a beloved homemade dessert, a classic school snack, and the indispensable companion of cold winter afternoons. Its true magic lies in its extraordinary adaptability. It can be made with nuts for those seeking texture, become denser for chocolate purists, or be covered with drizzles of melted chocolate and sprinkled with sugar like fine snow. The brownie doesn't pretend to be sophisticated or complex. Its charm lies in a profound simplicity that feels like a shared refuge. It's a common thread that unites generations, a piece of living history that, despite its distinguished origins, still begs to be eaten with your hands. What do you think about these 13 of the world's most famous foods invented in the United States?